Hey everybody, it's Angela, and I'm here with another process video. And this is going to be a layout for my kitchen cooking journal, recipe journal. And I am using this Cocoa Daisy paper that's exclusive to the Cocoa Daisy Club. And I'm using this yellow side to document some cornbread pans that my husband has. And I'm going to mat the photos on this My Mind's Eye chalk studio paper. There was a sheet in there that I don't think I'd probably use as it is, so I'm just going to take the center of it out and use it to map my photos, and I'll keep that upper portion of the banners and maybe die cut some shapes, die cut a heart and stuff out of there. So I won't waste it or anything. I'm just not going to use it as is. So I'm just going to mount my photos 3 across like that in a central strip. And I really struggle with this layout. I don't know, I fussed around a lot, so hopefully it won't be too boring for you guys. I tried to cut a lot of it out. So right now I'm just trimming my paper with my paper trimmer. And I wanted to document this story because my husband got these cornbread pans from his aunt, and they had a cornbread cook-off because he used to cook cornbread in his camper when he was younger, and he was camping at their house and he was cooking it in his camper, and so she cooked hers as well, and they had a little cook-off and traded recipes and stuff like that. And then later she gave him her cornbread pans that were her grandmother's, so his let's see, that would be his great-grandmother's. So I decide to do a light stamping in the background with just some cooking type stamps. I've got a Fisker's stamp there. I'm going to, and then I also had a newer one from, oh shoot, well, we'll see when I have another one by the same manufacturer, so I can tell you, but I'm just going to use the flour, sugar, salt canisters along the top. And a lot of this gets covered up, but I really, wanted to add a little bit of texture. And when you start out, you don't know exactly what's going to show and what's not going to show, but you kind of want to have that layering going on. So I'm just using my chalk ink to do that. I've got another stamp here. This is the Fisker's stamp, one that I had gotten at Tuesday morning. And it just says from the kitchen of around a circle. And I also pulled out this W+9, and I guess I didn't use that. Here's the one. Who is that? I think that's My Mind's Eye. And I got those farm stamps and then the one with the canisters and stuff on it. So I'm going to stamp this wheat sheaf on each side. And then I'm going to put some more stamping down on that bottom right hand side because I know that's where I want to do my journaling. So I'm going to stamp like a recipe lines down there to put my journaling on. So I'm trying to clean up my stamps as I go so it doesn't get too out of hand. That stamp has a recipe rating with all the little stars underneath it. And then I have this big one that says recipe that I'm going to stamp on here. I'm not actually going to write the recipe. I haven't actually found the one that his aunt gave to him, so I don't know if it still exists. I can probably ask one of his cousins, but I did want to make sure that I got it journaled down that the pans had been hers and had come from her grandma. So, and then I cleaned them up and used them because he hadn't used them for a long time. And so I use them to make cornbread with, and they work just great. Since I use a lot of cast iron and care for a lot of cast iron already, it wasn't a big deal to just add these on. So if you care for your cast iron and you really take care of it and use it, it's really easy to work with. You won't get your cornbread sticks won't get stuck in there and cause a mess or anything. I know a lot of people don't use them because they say everything gets stuck in there, but it's kind of how you treat your cast iron and how you use it and stuff as to how easy it is to work with. So here I've got some die cuts from Ruby Rocket, And that was a name I hadn't really heard before that I saw on a cherry on top. And since usually if I find food related or cooking related die cuts, I just go ahead and get them because I always am using them. And here is another set of little die cuts that, you know, I am ill prepared, so I can't tell you who the manufacturer is. Sorry about that. If you're interested, please let me know and I will definitely look those up. I'm sorry I don't have all the manufacturers written down here for this video. But here is where I do a lot of fussing and I just can't quite get things how I want them to look. So a part of that is just to keep trying stuff until you find something that just looks right. So I have these stickers, and these are, I believe, from the Paper Studio or Paper House. Yes, they're from Paper House. And they're layered, but they're not layered too thick, and I like that. They're kind of just like chipboard on top of chipboard. And these are kind of the chalkboard. And I thought all the black really picked up on the black cast iron. So I wanted to use a couple of these. So I'm just seeing where it would work. And I kind of like that heart, and I like that they have holes in them so you can add some twine and get another texture going in there. So as you can see, I'm, you know, moving them around and I'm still not sure. So I didn't like the blue on the side of those, of the mat. So I just went ahead and cut that off. And again, I'm still fussing. So anyhow, yeah, I use these cast iron pans to do our cornbread sticks and stuff when I make chili or whatever. And it's just, I wanted to make sure to get it documented and get the story down so that the kids would know where this cast iron came from. And if it gets split up or sold or whatever after I'm gone, you know, they'll have that story and link and keep the history of it. You know, because to some of us it's really important, other people not so much, but I wanted to kind of preserve it in case someone wanted to keep the pieces later on. So I finally decided I want to use this heart, and I have some just regular twine. I didn't want to do the baker's twine because the red of the baker's twine kind of clashed a little bit with the red on those dimensional, like on that heart and stuff. So I just used this kind of plain kind of craft colored twine, and I just tie a bow at the top of that. So I like that texture, and I like having the black element of the chipboard in there. And then I still want to do some more layering, so I go back and I play with these die cuts a little bit more, but I still just can't quite seem to get them to work on here. And you know, even though I'm doing a food themed layout doesn't mean that I have to use food themed die cuts, you know, and so I have to kind of, you know, get that out of my head that I have to use these cooking die cuts for this. You know, I can use anything. So as soon as I kind of get that out of my head and decide that I want to pull out labels and other things like that, it, you know, I fuss around a lot. And I probably should have cut more of this out, but you know, you kind of get to see my struggles, and you know that all layouts just don't come together easily, and you just gotta, you know, fiddle around with them. And luckily, you know, I'm watching a movie while I'm doing this, so it's not such a big deal. Or I watch YouTube videos and stuff like that while I'm doing it. So I know that this needs more color, and so I'm trying to bring in more of that red with some of these accents. And even then, it just needs more color. So you'll see here in a little bit, I go to some of my digital supplies to find some corn, because I couldn't actually find, I didn't have a good stamp or anything, or any other accents of corn, and I wanted to kind of play up that theme that they're cornbread pans. So I think at this point, I know at one point I just walk away from it and come back to it, because sometimes that's the best way. So I go to get some thickers, and you'll see my decision process on this. I wanted to do it black lettering, and when I got to looking through, I have a lot of black thickers. I was surprised at different fonts. So I look at that one. The one that had the stitching on it was too white. The stitching was too white and kind of clashed, so I took that away. I took away one where the font just didn't work, where it was like all uppercase, and I wanted a font that was a little more casual and that I had enough vowels. And so I decided on this one because I love the little cursive to it. I love how it kind of connects together and everything. And it had, you know, the lowercase letters. So at first I'm just going to call it cornbread. And then as I decide, you know, that I want to talk more about that it was his aunt's cornbread pans, I do put kind of a subtitle. I put Aunt Roberta's and then cornbread pans on there, but you'll see that at the very end. I bring some of those black thickers down to the bottom where my journaling is going to be in those brackets. And let's see, what do I do next? I think I went off to look. At this point is where I decided I really wanted to put some corn motifs on there. So I look through my stamps, and you'll see on this one there's a little tiny ear of corn on there. So I go ahead and take that off and decide to stamp a few of those along the bottom. It's a real small sticker or stamp, so I figure, well, if I do several of them, that'll give it a little more presence. I'm sorry you can't see that, it's a little off screen down there. I look at where else I could put it, so I just put 3 little ears of corn down there. And then again, I'm going back to playing with those die cuts and thinking I'm going to make that work. And then I went away. And so now you can see I've come back. There's a little bit of light showing in the upper right hand corner, so it's during the daytime on the weekend. And I delved into my digital supplies, and I printed out just a bunch of items on a piece of paper. And some of those were corn that I wanted to include on this layout. The rest of it was just kind of filler because I didn't want to waste the piece of paper. I just did some more vegetable printouts, and I'll put them in my die cuts to use on other projects later. So I've got this bushel of corn and then some individual ears of corn, and I cut them out. So I'm just going to ink the edges because I don't cut them out exactly perfect, and if you ink the edges, it'll hide any kind of imperfections, and it also takes away that white edge of your paper. So I think I cut out 3 ears of corn and then the 1 bushel basket. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put all the corn, but I know I kind of want the basket on the bottom because it seems to be a little bit heavier element, and it needs a nice place to be grounded and to sit. Oh, and I just trim up that ear of corn to make it look a little bit different than the other one. So I'm going to use some foam tape on this one and just kind of lift it up there on the bottom. I put a few little tiny pieces behind the ears of corn just to keep it from bending too much and to stabilize that upper portion. I put that down at the bottom, and I have to kind of work around that bracket. So I wind up kind of pulling that bracket up and snipping off the end of it and then tucking it back underneath there. And then one of the ears of corn I'm going to tuck behind. And then I decide I really want 1 more ear. So I cut 1 more out, and I'm going to layer some other things. So I know they're going to get covered up, but I just try to figure out how I want those situated. And then I glue that one directly to the little tag, and then that one it's going to hang out, so I have to put some foam tape on the top of it just to stabilize that top portion. So that's going to go up there, and then I'm going to layer some more things on top of that. Because at first I thought, oh yeah, it's pretty much done, but then I decided, you know, it's just too simple, too clean. I just want more layers and more interest there. So then in order to do that, I need some more smaller pieces. So I get out this tray that I have where I throw all kinds of little things, especially these cut apart sheets where once you kind of cut into them, they, you know, you have all those little loose bits. So I throw them all in this tray. And so now you're going to get to see me digging through this tray, little treasures, and cutting out pieces I think will work. And this tray has seemed to work the best for me. I tried a lot of different ways to organize it, putting them in baggies, putting them in boxes and whatever, but for these cut apart sheets, I don't know, this tray just seems to be working the best for me. My husband found it at a thrift store, and he knows I love the old enamelware. You know, all the white enamelware with either like the red or the blue trim or black trim. And so he just picked it up for me. It's not an old one, it's a newer one, but I really love the shape and size of it. And I have some other pieces that I use. I have one that I use to store my thickers in, and another piece of old enamelware on my desk that I use to keep sticker packs in. So between white glass and the old enamelware, that's pretty much what I've been using to store most of my scrap pieces in. So I'm just going through, I have a few little small packets that came in kits, and I'm just pretty much taking everything I think might work color-wise or theme-wise and setting them aside. So these are what I'm left with, what I pulled out. And so now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to layer up on top of that tag, and then any other items I'm going to kind of stick in and around. So I'm going through, I'm looking for things that have the yellow and the black and maybe touches of green, and something that will, you know, talk about the fact that I'm going to tell a story here about where these cornbread pans came from. And I like that black tag, except it was a little bit too big for that heart, so I do wind up, yeah, I just kind of chop it down a little bit. And I like the true story because it kind of points your eye to the title. And I do wind up putting that little asterisk thicker up on that tag as well, just to bring a little bit of that black thicker up to that top corner. And now I'm looking for some enamel dots that'll work on there. And I'm just going to sprinkle a few of those, and you can see that the lighting's a little bit different, so I've come back for a third session on this one. Like I said, it gave me a little bit of trouble. Sometimes, you know, when you've been out of your scrap room and you're trying to get back in and get your mojo back, it's really tough. You really kind of have to fight through it. So that is, I believe, where I do my close-ups, and you'll see in the final photo that I do add more to the title, because I have that little sticker that says Aunt there, and so I add Aunt Roberta's cornbread pans, and then I do my journaling. So you'll see that in this final photo. Let me pan back out here. So that is my finished layout, and then I go back and I just add that little bit more titling there. So it says Aunt Roberta's cornbread pans, and I put my journaling down in the bottom. So that is my whole layout, and thank you for suffering through this as all my indecision here. And if you have any questions or anything, just leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.